Hold on. Station guys. Sorry, hold on one second. Let me get us right here. There we are. Station everyone. Welcome to Supreme Clientele. Episode 36 here. April 17th, 2024. I'm without my co-host. Unfortunately, Link is under the weather. Link sending you all the good vibes, bro. Get healthy, get well. Hope to see you soon. But yeah, um, of little consequence though, because I'm joined by my homie, my brother, making his Supreme Clientele debut. Way too late for that, but it's all good. We climbed a mountain to get here tonight. I feel like it's a success already, starting it off. So, bro, Verno, how are you, brother? Good to have you.
What up, my brother? I was gonna try and pretend that I was missing Link and see how far we could get into the show before people would call it out. I think we could have got a ways,
Sure,
but here I am,
absolutely. At least halfway through. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm stoked to be here. This is the first time that I've talked about anything other than a movie in forever. And when I got into
Yeah,
content
man.
creating, it was all X-Men. So this is in some ways this is my comfort zone, man. I feel like I'm
That's
coming
right.
back
I
home
know. Yeah,
to talk some
you're
X-Men.
definitely an ex historian. So I'm here to. I'm glad to have you here tonight. We were planning on doing X-Men 97 and a little bit of Inferno, but I think we're just going to stick to X-Men 97 and the joy that's been tonight without Link here. I definitely want to get back to a part two and try to break down at least parts of that story. You warned me
I
off the
did.
bat, and I should have listened to you. I told Berto backstage. Ever since like we basically agreed to do the show, I've done nothing but bitch and moan about it. So I appreciate him even
Well,
showing
hey,
here.
let me ask you this, and I know we're going to get into it as we go through the X-Men 97 episodes, but didn't it feel to you at the time when you made this decision, to do Inferno, because you're like, hey, let's do some comic books with X-Men 97, and I was like, let's do some that inspired these new episodes, and you're like, boom, yeah, okay, let's do Inferno. I thought at that time Inferno was going to be like
I thought
a
it was gonna.
bigger part of this season, and it might be over. Like that might have been it.
So
Episode 3 might be it, but I feel like elements of it are going to come up further down the road in this season. I hope.
I
Is that what you
completely,
thought or think?
but dude, no, I completely agree with you. Yeah, like absolutely. When I agree, we agreed to do this 2 or 3 years back, 2 or 3 years weeks back.
It took us that long to read it.
Yeah, for sure, because just the way Madeline Pryor dropped that line, everything that was going on in the story at that time, she had held really that the cliffhanger, the episode before with showing up at the house and being the second Gene, and then everything there. Yeah, I thought we were just getting warmed up and getting started. That
Right.
we're gonna get into it, but that would probably tie into my one critique of the show is like they have packed so many crazy awesome elements from
Mhm.
and storylines from the X-Men lore and canon, but at times it's like y'all can pump the brakes and get
Yeah.
a lot more juice and a lot more milk out of this cow. I don't know. How do you
I
feel?
don't
You
know
feel the
either. I
same?
have the same exact thoughts, but at the same time, like that's probably why the show's been so good. So
Facts.
it's like whatever. I think we will get, like, we'll revisit the Storm losing her powers storyline, maybe in like a Disney Plus live action TV show where they'll then spread it out. All these
Yeah,
storylines that we're seeing here, like give us a 2 year build up to Inferno kind of a thing, uh, live action.
for sure. And like I could have used at least a whole episode, if not two, for Life Death. Just how beautiful of
Mhm.
a story that is, and not to see that's the other thing is like I want to complain about the length, but the way they did it with the adversary in this one, and they switched it up, how they made it different from the comic book. It
Mhm.
wasn't Gyrick this time around, and it felt like it had a much more emotional investment for the character, like as for Storm, and I felt like that journey was a lot more personal to her, and it wasn't more it was about Forge's kind of backstabbing in a way in the comic books as well, like
Yeah.
that was kind of, and it kind of seems like he's going to be at least the good guy or the nice guy here for a little bit.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to stay that way for very much longer, but
I'm having a
um
hard time not being distracted by E's comment down here
what do
about.
we got?
Did you say something about juice and a cow or something?
Yes, I did. Look, I'm a man.
Good catch.
I'm a man of self contradictions. Okay, we all know that. Yeah, I'm out here using double entendres and all that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm juicing cows. That reminds me of that scene from Oh man, what's the bowling movie with Woody Harrelson? Kingpin.
Yeah.
And he's out on the Amish farm, and he gets out there early one morning. I milked the cow. We ain't got a cow. We have a bull.
We got a bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, classic movie. But yeah,
Right.
anyway, yeah, definitely. I think they could have got more mileage out of some of these storylines. But regardless, I think like what you said is true. And that's you know, a reason for its success. It's definitely like never each episode has been fresh, and
Mhm.
they've leaned on these things so well. I feel like they've done such justice to the originals and reinvented it in new and fantastic ways. So I can't,
They're
yeah,
they're writing the show as if this is the only season that they're ever gonna get,
right.
and I
I'm
hope
like,
that's
are we
not the
doing? No,
case.
that's so true. Though I was just saying that to my homeboy at work today. Like, it doesn't feel like it's amazing, but I feel like we're gonna like get Fatal Attractions and Age of Apocalypse.
Right,
Gonna wrap it. You know what I mean? Like
right.
the
They're
what
gonna
is
do the
the
whole Hickman storyline in the finale. They'll
the
just
what is
do it
the
all.
3 episode finale gonna look like? It's gonna be crazy, man. Like,
But before we get into like the specifics on each episode, that just another thing is like the old series, they had a bit of the opposite problem. Like it gets annoying watching the Phoenix
so
Saga
true.
part 5 and then the Dark's Phoenix Saga. It's another 5 part 1. Like they leaned into that in the like 3rd and 4th season of the show way too much, having these really drawn out storylines. So
Yeah.
I would rather have this where it's just constant entertainment than where it does get a little boring, especially going back now 20 years later and revisiting the old series. Those it you know you I want to go, oh, I'm gonna go watch the Dark Phoenix Saga again, but it's you I rarely make it through it when I go to do
No,
that.
facts. Like there's a couple I enjoy revisiting. I like I think it's Weapon X Lies and Videotape because that one mirrors the Larry Hama kind of Mark Silvestri kind of sequel to Weapon X that happened in the Wolverine run. When I was a
Mm,
kid, I love that episode. But dude, that's just like Wolverine getting sad and mad. You know what I mean? I'm always game for that. That's always going to work for me. But yeah,
mhm,
I feel what you're saying. The rewatchability is not there like it is with like something like Batman the animated series or
mhm.
other animated treasures from my childhood.
Right. Those
But
first 2 seasons, because 'cause they're like 11, 12, 13 episodes each, those are better that way because they have, like, some two-parters in there, but they're
yep,
banger two-parters. They're like the stories with Cable and Bishop and just great stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it definitely gets a little too drawn out there.
Mhm.
All right, well, just general episodes. We're up to 6 now. I'm guessing you've watched the new one already today.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite so far? Has it been the huge jaw dropping episode 5? Was it,
Yeah, man. I mean, I
yeah,
know we're gonna get into it, so I don't wanna give too much, but to me, that's like first it was episode 3, the Inferno one blew my mind. The first 2 before that are great. Like, I was fully committed to the show before episode 3. 3 blew my mind and took it to another level. It was so good. And then, the Life Death one in Mojo dipped a little bit, but it was still really, really solid.
it
And then
did.
I think, Remember It is maybe the best episode of any animated show ever, dude. I'm prone to hyperbole, but that was it's one of the best like single things of X-Men I've ever seen. Like comic
Amen,
book,
bro.
a show, they combine so many elements in such a good way. Like everything you could say about the season, you could say about that show in particular. They
Very
pulled
true.
from everywhere. They somehow made it work. They made it familiar to like old X-Men fans, and then they made it unique too and different. They twisted everything in like the perfect way. I mean, that one's an all-timer for me. Just
Yeah.
yeah. What about you?
Um, I would say that one. I gotta say, like, I thought the was it episode 2 when Executioner
Mhm.
did his business. I like just seeing Executioner come back. I always had a soft spot for him for God knows why, but like just seeing that throwback reference and like how he wasn't some pushover chump. Like he handled his
Mhm.
business and he got to his target or at least close enough, and did what he had to do. And I just love that Magnus or Magneto at the UN addressing them and, not doing what we expected him to, but,
Mhm.
he's still got the second part of his story. I'm so excited to see whether it's Zorn or we know he's not dead. We know he's coming
Right.
back one way or the
Right.
other.
Right.
But yeah, dude, episode 5 was just a joy to, I mean, if you had told me that was going to be what what we were going to get going into the season, like, come on, man, I would have had, I had no expectations for that level of engagement and
Right.
storytelling. It blew me away. I think that's the de facto, choice. I can't wait to see where it goes from here. At the same time, I don't know. The more you remind me of the old episodes, I am scared. Kind of we're ending it on a three part arc, but
Right.
I don't know. We'll see. It's just so much. They've already, like we said, they've already packed so much into it.
But what they're doing, some of it is they're packing it in, but it's not necessarily the case isn't closed on all these things. The Storm story, they
Sure.
wrapped that up a little bit quick, and I think they knew that, and that's why they broke it up over like a few weeks, so it felt like it was a bigger story. But like the Inferno stuff, Madeline Pryor still exists, Sinister still maybe has some control over or something. They could definitely bring that back, and they clearly are making Sinister like the big bad of at least this first season. So I don't know. And they did, I guess, the first episode where they're focusing on the Sentinel technology. They did bring that back for number 5. So as long as they keep doing that, they set up big enough storylines that then they can, like a good comic book writer would do, then farm off themselves in future seasons. And
Yeah,
that's maybe that's why they're going. Maybe it'll help that they're going so big now that there'll be so much to farm off of here.
for sure. There's so much. Like, I just worry about them landing all those planes. But regardless, it's
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, it's definitely going to be interesting. Let me ask you this, like generally speaking, what character have you enjoyed the most? Whether it's an old favorite that's just been reliable, or Cyclops has certainly been the talk of the town, at
Yeah.
least starting off. Who
I will say, first off, just because you brought him up, and most people don't like Cyclops. I'm a massive Cyclops fan. I love the guy. I don't think he's a Boy Scout at all. I think he's wrongly labeled as a Boy Scout because he is. Can I swear on your show? This guy's a
Do it,
fuck up.
brother. Talk that
This guy,
shit.
he's fucking everything up, man. He's always cheating on these hot women that he's with, and he's losing sons left and right, and he can't hold on to a father. The guy is like he's far from a Boy Scout. So
Losing sons.
I've always enjoyed him, and I think there was so
Uh,
much good focus on him in the Claremont era, and what they're doing with him here is I don't know if they ever like I have a hard time remembering what all they've actually done in X-Men the animated series, but I feel like they've never really put him in a bad light like they're about to now. Like they did so much in the comics, and I think that's going to be interesting to see in this form, but also Rogue and Gambit. I'm a huge fan of them. I as huge as a Wolverine fan that I am, I love the restraint that they've showed with him. It's like they understand like this show isn't for casual fans. This is for X-Men fans, and X-Men fans, and we've had plenty of Wolverine. So I love that they're holding off on him, but also I hope they give us like an
yes,
all-timer this season, like an all-timer Wolverine story before it's over. But
yeah,
yeah, I think Rogue has been key, and I love how much they're highlighting her, and I think they plan to do it a lot more. But what about you,
yes,
brother?
agreed.
What stood out for you, man?
Man, I gotta say, like, I'm a Scott Summers hater. I'll go ahead and say that.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I,
Most people are.
Chat, I love you. Let me. I gotta show love to the chat here in a minute, but I know Chet's in here. Chet's a big psych guy. Psych is a badass. That's a little much, but I'll agree with half that statement. He's been a badass so far, dude, and I love his conflicted nature, whether it's being team leader or his personal responsibilities, dude. Like, he did flip on old girl real quick though
Yeah,
when the twins showed up. It's always like, man, he's always, I don't know. Sometimes he makes it too easy for you though.
right.
But I get it. Like, you're right. Like, he's losing sons left and right. That was funny when I saw what's his name in this most recent episode with the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. I was like, oh, there's another one.
Right.
But it's crazy Charles didn't have a psychic moment with them, or some type of
Right.
um
The other thing about Cyclops I was gonna say, this is something my brother said about Storm, and it's true about both characters, but the voice actors for those 2 characters are what's like pinning it in for me,
Oh
like making it
man,
so nostalgic. Everybody sounds good, but there's something about like you hear so much. Cyclops is so exactly the same. Like Storm is
that's
exactly the same.
so
Everybody else
true, bro.
is good, but they're a little bit off. Those two are just like perfect.
Bro, that's so true. This last episode, especially like during those scenes when Storm kind of spoilers, guys. Sorry, full on spoilers tonight. If you haven't seen the most recent episode, I'm sorry. Come back and catch us on the rewatch.
And nothing happens that you're not gonna fucking guess is gonna
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. It's
That's
a
all.
two-sided thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, during that rebirth when she's flying around, and I was like, dude, this is some fucking voice acting, man. Like it was just so impressive, man. And like that, the scene when she got zapped by Executioner at the UN. That like to me, that scene and Rogue's the end of episode 5 with Rogue's crying,
Dude.
like taking you out. Those two scenes, you could feel the full on emotion of it, and it's just they do so many little things right. Like, and I've talked about it before on on Blame Fable and His Amazing Friends, but Storm loses her power and she walks into that one room and the thunder strikes or whatever, and she jumps at the thunderclap. I just thought that was such a brilliant little detail to
Right.
show how far gone she is and how really zapped she is. Yeah, Sal says how badass was Gladiator. Gladiator was so fucking badass.
Yeah.
Dude. That was great. That was good to see some Shi'ar fucking
Hell yeah, man.
let me say what up to the chat. It's been too long. Sorry, guys. John in the place to be. What up, John? E Money. Thank y'all for coming through. Of course, hope everybody's doing well on this Wednesday. It's been quite a week for your boy. It will continue to be, but we're gonna persevere, man.
Mm-hmm.
Fable, Station Brother. Who else we got? We got Chet. Chet, what up? And anybody else? And Sal, yeah, Sal. How badass was Gladiator? Absolutely. All right. So yeah, I guess let's just get into episode 1. How you feel about just in general the Charles is dead? Because I gotta say, even when I saw Charles show up today on episode 6, I was like, oh, he's supposed to be dead. Like, what happened at the end of it? But like my boy Spence was telling me at work that he went at the end of the regular animated series, he went up with the Shi'ar, and it was that
I just
story.
watched
So
it.
Okay.
Which is more or less what they do in the comics. I don't remember the exact situation, but there's something that happens in the comics at one point where he's got to leave, and when he does leave, Magneto ends up coming in and taking over. So, first of all, my first thought is like this is great because I always thought that was a really good idea to put Magneto in charge of the team back in the day. Like when I was reading through it, which I only read this like 3-4 years ago when I read the Claremont like run from start to finish. And when I got to that, I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, that's such an interesting move to have Magneto leading all these people. But what they did in the comics is he really led like the New Mutants, and all those stories were in the New Mutant books. And like, I didn't really read those. You know what I mean? I thought they kind of missed an opportunity there. So with here, I was like, oh, this is interesting, right? But now, as I'm saying this, I feel like they've wrapped that up already, and they never really did it. They never really had much where he was leading the team, but it was badass, and I was instantly like it hooked me in right there from that moment. Oh, they're playing off of the way that the series ended back in the day. That is what it is. Gyrick came in, shoots Xavier. I don't know why they're all acting like he's dead. Am I tripping, or are all the X-Men acting like they think he's dead?
Right there, yes.
They know he's not dead.
It was you got that scene. I meant to put the image in, but it's literally there's a shot in the animation where it's the last will and testament of Charles Xavier.
Yeah,
and Magneto's in the background, and that's in the foreground. So it's like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm a little confused because I mean,
and then they just picked it up. Well, they just picked it up in this episode. Like, what's up, bitch? You know what's happening? Yeah. It's like, wait, what?
Exactly. Like, yep, you knew it was coming. I did know it would be coming eventually.
But after episode 5, like this was wild. It's like, damn, this is what really put me on to like, damn, another major X, like we're out in space with the Shi'ars now. Like this could be a whole half a season. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Right. And honestly, I watched that like first thing this morning when I woke up, and I guess we'll get into it later. I don't remember how it ended. I'll just ask you that. Like, did they wrap it up where he's going to be out of Shi'ar Are we
Yes.
expecting him back
He
on
had
Earth
a
next time we see
he
him?
was up there, and he had like a psychic moment where he was like, class is now in session, and he was schooling the Shi'ar and being Professor X
Hmm.
or whatever. And then he had like a psychic moment where a giant gambit appeared, and he had like a
Yeah.
psychic
I
reckoning
must return to
of
my
all the
X-Men.
and he had a record like all the lives lost and all that. And he was like, I can't. And it was
Do
cool.
we
He
know
had that
how he's
nice
getting
line,
home?
"I
Because
can't betray." I,
I'm hoping he's
that,
got an issue getting home when we've got the Starjammer
no,
showing
he's getting straight home, bro. He's gonna
up.
like, next episode it's gonna be like, to me, it's gonna be like, Hickman's. He's gonna
Right.
be He's gonna be down in the regeneration chamber with the helmet
With the
on, and it's
Cerebro
gonna be
helmet
like,
on,
oh,
exactly. He'll come walking
to
out,
me, my X
exactly.
Men. It's like, wait, what? we're at the Hickman saga. Yeah, y'all know it's true. Like, we love the show, but y'all know it's true.
Definitely. Who do you feel that this is a random question. Who do you feel that they have underutilized so far? Who hasn't been
Oh man,
highlighted enough? I'm
think
just
back.
noticed because there's one character I look at right now that they haven't done anything with.
Um, I don't know. I think there's a lot of them. Honestly,
Right, right.
kind of like they've kind of bounced all over the place, and like at this point, who are we? Who are we attached to, man? Like, who's, you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
know, like, if they bring Rogue has had enough. I don't know. I feel like the people who have had any kind of exposure in the first half are going to have some type in the second half, obviously, trying to tie everything together. So we're going to see Rogue again and feel sorry for her.
Right.
Morph has been all over the fucking place, man.
Yeah.
Like, what are they trying to do with Morph? Are they trying to make a statement with this character? Are they, is he just a cameo?
They wanna crack jokes. They wanna
Yeah,
crack
it's just like,
jokes with Morph.
and it's like the Wolverine in the shower shit. It's just like, y'all, why are y'all being so cute with it? Just like, stand on it. Like, whatever you're gonna do with that character, do it, and let's move on. But like, every
Mhm.
time I'm watching that intro and I see Morph running around shooting a gun, I'm like, what are we doing with Morph, man? I don't know.
I'm with Fable. That's kinda where I was leaning towards, like, they haven't done shit with Bishop besides give him a couple, like, catchphrases here and there and,
Oh
like,
yeah, Bishop. Oh, yeah.
demonstrate his powers. He's the one that took Cable to the future, but other than
Yeah,
that,
I
they
don't.
haven't done
And it
much
was
with it,
cool.
but they'll
Yeah, it was
get to
cool
it. They'll
seeing
get
his
to it.
sister for a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, there's only
Um,
6 episodes. It's not like they could have done an episode highlighting everybody just yet, so
for sure. Christina in the house. Christina, thank you for coming through. Hope you're well, ma'am. Brother Joe, what up? Sorry if I missed you earlier. Hope you're well, Brother Joe. All right. Anybody else on this? I think that's everybody. I said what up to Two Gun, right? Two
you
Gun.
gotta say it twice, though, just to make sure it counts.
Yeah, you're right. Hope you're well, brother. Thank you for always coming through. Yeah, we already talked about his or no, actually, to go on to the second part of Magnus. How did you feel about the Rogue thing and them getting back together in the love triangle? Did you dig it? I thought
It's
it paid good dividends in episode 5 when Rogue and Gambit had that fireside
yeah.
conversation, and it really kind of added some emotional weight to it. And then obviously what happened happened. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. What do you think about it, bro?
I think it's my first thought when I saw it is like, "Oh, this is gonna weird people out that don't read comics because it is just so like, even to look at that picture, you're like, "What? I didn't" you would never guess, that, but, that's one of the reasons why I love Rogue so much, and I like what they're doing with her is because she does have the past that she has, and it's another one of those things because there's all these different types of media that have told the story. I'm always like, now what happened in the comics? They were together in the comics, but I feel like it was somewhat like the story that she tells where she's wearing that outfit. They're in like the Savage Lands and shit. Like that's how it went down in the comic. I'm talking out my ass. I don't know if that's true, but I vaguely think that they had some moment where she was wearing that outfit.
There's a big Magneto. I'm not sure about that, but there's a big Magneto issue in the Savage Land that Jim Lee
Right.
did. I remember that's
I
like
think
super
that is
epic.
with her, and that's kind
Yeah,
of where it went down.
I think you're right.
But I just
Yeah, sure.
I dig
Yeah,
I dig what they're doing with it, and I dig that. I guess we'll be touching on this later. It seemed like she wasn't really having it. Like she kind of like had her moment with him, but she's like, that was a nice dance, but and she was about to be like, I'll rule with you, but I'm not gonna rule with you, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
So
and it was just like it got weird when they got to Genosha. Like, I don't know, like when Gambit and like Kurt was. I don't know, kind of gassing him up and stuff like that. I just felt like, I don't know, like you didn't know if she was trying to keep it from him because things
Mhm.
were like moving forward with him or with Magneto, or like, it was a regret she had and she didn't want him to find out. You know what I
Right.
mean? I felt like
Right.
it was kind of ambiguous in that sense, but
Do
yeah,
you
this is a weird visual for sure.
Right, I was about to ask you something. Well, I guess we'll get into it later. Hey, something more on general that I wanted to ask you earlier. I remember you were the first one when you were on hashtag Blame Fable and his amazing friends. I remember you saying this animation looks like shit when you saw the trailer. So where do you stand on it now, 6
It's
episodes in?
it's fire. I think
Yeah,
they do a great job. I was wrong.
yeah,
Definitely,
good.
like, definitely eating those words. It did look like shit in the trailer. I stand by that. Like, the trailer was kind of all over the place. Like, it had its good moments, but at the same time, like, I tell you where it really shines for me is in the action. I think the action
Yo, totally.
is updated and it's like it's visceral. You feel everything going on. Like you felt Gladiator today, like fucking those dudes up. Like episode 5, that Tri Sentinel or Master Mold or whatever the hell it was. You like
Mhm.
the power of those blasts. You felt it. And I think in those moments, like it really pays off. And like, dude, some of those scenes, down the pipeline in episode 5 with him trying to hold off the blast and the eyes like going back and forth.
Yeah.
It's like, woo.
There's like a
So
sharpness
yeah,
to the look of their
I
faces.
definitely, yeah, yeah,
Like, just like
absolutely,
Rogue's face right here in this, like, she's, like, she's prettier than she was. You know what I mean? They're drawing the faces a little bit tighter, and, like, the first time in the first episode, when Wolverine is fucking up Sunspot in the Danger Room, and you see him, like, over top of him, he's got the 2 claws around his head, like, the detail on his face, I was, like, so sold with that moment because you never I don't know, he never looked that good, as good as he did
yeah.
in that moment in the OG. It's just you can't I mean, it's nothing discrediting the original. People like to say like, "Oh, it can't be better," but it can. They've updated
It
a
can,
lot of
man.
things, man.
It's only gonna get like it's progressions in technology. It's all those natural advances that help make a better product. But that's
Right,
not something like I I should have known better, honestly, saying that. But at the same time, yeah, I'm glad that they've found a way to kind of like honor the original aesthetic, but also move it forward in a
right.
unique and dope way.
It's
Um,
unquestionably X-Men the animated series, and that's another thing.
Absolutely,
It's like I've
absolutely,
heard people say this before, like with when Disney took over Star Wars, and people would say they're trying to be like Star Wars instead of being Star Wars. And I feel like this is X-Men the animated series. Like this is the same shit. It's just more updated and newer.
yeah. This is, and like I'm trying to think like if they did a Batman the animated series and try to bring it back like these days, and like me saying to people, if people are like, "Oh, I want to check out X-Men the animated series, what should I watch?" Yo, watch 97. Like that's what I would be like.
Right, right.
And like to think like like if I would be like that about like a Batman relaunch, I can't say the same thing unless they somehow topped it. But you know what I mean? Like this has been so much better than the original, I think, in so many different and amazing ways. Like you gotta give it its props. Like this is
Right.
definitely like new the new standard when it comes to seasons of great animated X-Men
You were
television.
chopping up for a
Um,
second. I was like, "Oh shit,
Real
I'm
quick,
about to host Supreme Clientele." Oh boy. I thought I was losing you for a second.
sorry, I was looking at the comments. Um, yeah, I think you can handle it though, Vern. No, no offense to my co-host and my great show, but I think you can handle it. Uncanny X-Men 274. I think that's the one. That's the one we're talking about with Jim Lee, dude. Like, it's a great story. I think Magneto's caught between Rogue, who wants him to believe in doing the better thing, and like I forget this other woman who's got she got her powers from Polaris. I remember. I
Mhm.
just read this issue, and she's like ruthless and cold hearted with
Oh
it,
shit. Yeah.
and Magneto sees part of himself in her, and he's like trying to choose between. It's just so brilliant, and it's like Jim Lee just goes crazy, like he's in the Savage Land, like Jim Lee and
This
Savage
one
Land
right
is the
here.
best.
Just if I can oh never mind. I'll look like shit.
I'll make you big.
Make me big. It's this. It's a very iconic cover, so a lot of people would know it.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah. Good call, Fable.
yeah, Fable. Chat reminding everybody that he's holier than thou. Good thing I don't watch superhero trailers. That's sacrilege. Oh, all right, bro. Thanks for carrying the torch for the rest of us.
Stu, I'm big and it's uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
Get me off here. There we go.
It's okay to say it out loud. X-Men are the best. Yeah, man. X-Men are the best.
Undoubtedly.
Some universal themes I think we can always get with. And characters you can love. All right, bro. We talked about his glow up already, but yeah. Anything you want to say about like him, against the I think we kicked off episode 1 with him against the Friends of Humanity, or that was a great scene, I thought.
I mean, the whole bit where they were
great way
where
to
the
show
Sentinel,
that X-Men are back and that he's leading the team.
Yeah, that I mean, I don't remember. Oh yeah, were you talking when him and Storm came in and saved Sunspot at the beginning, or whoever else it was?
Yep.
That was fire. What comes to
Yeah.
my mind and his spot in that episode that like jumps to my mind is when they were attacked on the plane by the Sentinel. Everything goes to hell. His optic blast is just ripping everything to shreds. He's directing traffic in the air, and then you think like, oh, so who's gonna pick up Cyclops? And he just slows the fall down with his optic blast. To me, my X-Men, it was like so epic, and that's what this show is doing. Like it's going over the top with the epic moments, and that it was incredible, man. It's another moment that was like I was so bought in. If you weren't bought in by that point in that episode, like you're not, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah. People like John's Comics with Kids hating on that moment, saying, his neck couldn't support that. I'm not trying. Come on, man. This is X-Men. Suspend belief, man. They just let it happen. Like
there was a 400-foot.
That was on some super. It was on some Super Saiyan shit. Like how could you not rock with that? That was fire.
Right.
Like I'd love whoever wrote this or who like. There's a prominent voice in the writers' room who was a fan of like Scott Summers in 1993 when you know what I mean, and like bro's been waiting for his time in line, and like I feel like he's really shining now. But like people who are like it's physically, give me a break, like just enjoy it. It was a great scene.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even believe. I mean, as much as I love John, shouts to John. I can't. Even
I don't know.
No,
I don't know if John said like the neck thing, but John didn't like it because John made the argument that he didn't feel it was believable. He didn't felt like he just didn't like that scene for Cyclops for whatever reasons. I'm not, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, John, like I thought it was a great one. Like I think it was one of those ones you can't help but buy in on.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know anything else. In season 1 or I mean episode 1 that you want to discuss. They all. Roberto Costa, how you feel about Sunspot not being really Sunspot?
Not being what? Oh, not being able to.
Sunspot.
He's not wanting to turn his thing on. That's cool. I don't remember like that necessarily being a part of his shtick in the comics, but I love him as a character, and especially I'm a little bit bummed out that they're not doing the full Hickman version of him. And I'm curious, like, what writers are doing right now. Like, the way Hickman wrote him to me was so, like, fast. He was so fucking funny. And, like, I don't know. He was over the top Roberto da Costa. And, like, it's so cocky. I mean, I guess it's what he is. But, like, I don't know. Hickman just wrote him for the comic relief in New Mutants. When he wrote him for New Mutants, I should say, at the opening of the Dawn of X. But, yeah, I wish he was a little bit more like that. But I guess I understand that he's not. But they haven't done a whole ton with him just yet. But I do love him as a character. So and it's cool that they're kind of teaming him up with Jubilee, because there always is a Jubilee character. You know what I mean? You've got someone that is like new to the team that Wolverine takes under their wing. And that makes me think of the one character I want them to add to the show eventually is Kid Omega, because I love that dynamic between Kid Omega and Wolverine. So he needs some kid like that. But Roberto will do. I would like a little Roberta Wolverine time, to be honest with you. That would be great.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a great point, Verno, because Verno really, Wolverine really shines in those youthful interactions, man. Like when he
Mhm.
has that father figure type of role to play, like it really works well, and especially when he's got a snarky,
Yeah.
super like not like Omega powered, like well, I guess Quentin Quire is, but yeah, like I don't know, just I love it when he has a snarky kid talking shit back to him. Somebody's gonna make him work for it. It's just the best.
Mhm.
Um, all right, yeah, getting into it, dude. What did you think of the whole Storm depowering UN situation, Executioner showing up?
My
Did you
biggest
you
takeaway
enjoy
from the
this?
my biggest take I loved it, but my biggest takeaway from the executioner showing up is I love how much you love the executioner showing up. 'Cause you're like, "I can't believe who showed up." I'm like, "Who the fuck cares? Who knows the execute?" Like, honestly, I didn't remember the executioner from, like, my childhood. I kind of
So what he did,
I've read some of it. He
dude,
showed up in Marauders. And like for me, a lot of like the X-Men knowledge that I have is from doing the Cerebros, and some storyline would come up in the Dawn of X, in Marauders or X-Force or whatever. And then I would go back and I would do my homework and I would do the reading of, oh, this executioner guy. Who is this guy with his terrible costume design? I got to figure out how he's lasted with this design all these years. And then I would go back and read the old stories with him. But yeah, I didn't know who he was until a couple years ago, but I love that you loved him so
dude.
much.
He showed up. I was watching the show with like my wife was she wasn't watching the show, but she was next to me. I stood up. I was like, "Is that Executioner?" And she was like, "Oh my god, what a name!" Like she was just explaining the
What's
shit.
his story? He's like a Nazi or some shit. Like I know
Yeah,
he's racist.
he's friends of humanity. He's like yeah, he's got a collection of weapons that have been like used against mutants in the past. I forget how he got that through some like connection through Friends of Humanity or Shield or whatever, and he uses the to go to war with the mutants. It's mainly the same type of thing. It's like a
Mhm.
depowering their type of their sick type of deal. But yeah, he was. I feel like they bossed him up a lot in the comics. I've got his. He appears in I think a 1993 annual, which is why I was so hyped for him because I had this comic when I was a kid, and it came with the trading card. Um, but yeah, he showed up and um, I think he killed Tower right away and like with the first um, one or two pages of his debut, and I don't know, he was just like a badass who was putting people away in the comic books, and he had homeboy who did body bags doing the art on that episode. I forget his last name, but I don't know. I had this like weird childhood attachment to it, so to see him like that of all the uh the ex enemies they could have chose, and Lord knows there's plenty. It was
Yeah.
just it was
What
so like so funny and tongue in cheek that they chose
it's one
Executioner.
of the things that I love about the mutants is there's so many of them.
Oh my
Like
god.
our boy Steph, missing link, getting stoked just seeing Blob in episode number 5. "Hey, Blob and Pixie, and it's like there's so many different eras, and it's like, oh, if you read that storyline, these people are important to you. But if not, you might not know who the hell Blob is, or Pixie, or Richter, or whatever. You know what I mean? There's so many that if you were into it, it's a big deal. But
Yeah. Hell yeah.
dude, the other thing I was gonna say that I like the moment that I love, there was two. The one when Jean throws the keys and puts the jacket on Wolverine when she's like going into labor. He's like, "What's going on?" She's like, "He's coming." He's like, "Who is it? Is it Apocalypse?" And all of a sudden, the keys show up in his hand and the jacket on his coat.
I
She's like,
forgot that
"Take me to
line
the
is so good.
hospital." It's so fucking good.
It
And then
is.
then at the end, which you already mentioned earlier, but when it's such a Magneto-y thing to do, where he's gonna give his speech. He's gonna give his Charles Xavier-esque speech about peaceful coexistence, but he does it in a way that shows the mutant superiority and shoves it down their face, where he takes them into outer space. And it's like it's such a fucking power move and a flex to talk about, like, we're gonna share this world. But it was a great way to have him be in Charles's position and speaking for the mutants, but to do it in like a Magneto way.
And bro, you just know he orchestrated this. Like the pity you felt for Storm, like lying there on the floor, like screaming for help and depowered, and yeah, like you said, him taking them up there in the atmosphere with like that thin little air bubble, and executioners like a dartboard essentially. It was so sick,
Right.
dude. Such a great moment, such a Magneto moment. Those are the moments we live for with Magneto. Like
Right.
that's when he's at his best. I feel like.
And I hope they don't turn him into a villain too soon. Like, it's cool if they do.
No, I
Where's he at
agree.
in the comics right now? I'm curious. I've been out of the game for about a year and a half.
I
Is he
don't know.
still
That's
is
a
he
good
still
question.
alive? Is he still a good guy? You guys in the chat, help
I
me out.
I think he's still alive, but I don't know. Sal knows. I know Sal was reading Resurrection of Magneto. So Sal, if you know, yeah, let me know. I don't know. What do you think about this version of the Life Death story with Forge and everything, and Storm finding her way back?
I think if I'm keeping it 100, it's definitely good, but it's slightly underwhelming because of a little bit of what we touched on earlier, where, like, to me, this is like one of the stories of the Claremont run. Storm losing her powers. It stretches out for a really long time. I believe, like, that's when she goes Mohawk Storm. That's when she becomes the leader of the
Morlocks.
Morlocks. And that's when she becomes the leader of the X-Men. Her and Cyclops have this battle, and she becomes leader of the X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 201, if I think. And it's such a long, drawn-out thing where she does all this stuff without her powers. She shows she can be the most important mutant that there is without her powers. So to skip all of that just to do it and call it, oh, Life Death Part 1 and 2, it's a little bit underwhelming, but at the same time, it was done well and it was really good. It just wasn't as good as it was in the comics, you know.
Yeah, very true. Plus Barry Windsor Smith on the art, like
Right.
dude who did Weapon X, like he's does such a wonderful job of
It's a vibe.
illustrate. And I love, yeah, it is. And it's like, I wish I should have had some slides, but I love his design on Forge's house, like how futuristic he makes it look, but also like a psychological trap when it needs to. But he's
Mhm.
been a lot more insidious in this. In the comic books, you find out that Gyrick is the one who depowers Storm, and he shoots her with a gun that Forge was the designer on.
Right.
And you find out that, like, in her healing, I think she picks up the phone. It's a 2-issue saga spread out over, I want to say 7, or it's like 186, and then the other one's
Yeah.
like
Oh, it's a
190.
minute between them.
Yeah, it's like 193 or 194. It's a good 6 or 7 issues. You got to wait to get the second part of the saga, but yeah, she picks up the phone, I think, at the end of the first issue, and hears this on the other end of the line, and it kind of goes from there. She,
So he's, like, keeping it from her more in the comics? 'Cause I
yes,
forget it.
yes,
It's
like
more of
he's
like a
helping her
shady
heal.
thing.
He's helping her heal and stuff, but you find out that, like, he engineered slash built the gun that took her powers, and, like, he's kind of the government go between. Like,
Mhm.
he's like, she's gonna regain her powers, and he's right. He's like, she's gonna regain her powers. We want her in a more secure location. And Forge is like, I'm the one that knows the most. I think she hears this part of the conversation. I'm the one that knows the most.
Mm.
I'm the one who built the gun. I'm the one that should be. She's made so many progresses already, because she was kind of falling for him in the comics and kind of getting back to herself. But
Right.
um, so it's much more endearing slash insidious situation, where here it seems a little bit more open ended. But I feel like he's still going to turn out to be a dick in some kind of way.
I honestly didn't pick up on any of that. Maybe that's because 'cause I'm a bit of a
I don't
Forge
I don't know.
fan.
I feel like after the things with everything with adversary kind of cleared. By the way, I loved adversary in this, and
Who
the
is that?
giant.
That's what the
Dude,
name of
this
that
is what
creature.
I'm saying. This is what I'm saying about the voice acting. It was that not the same woman who played Storm? It sounded like they just altered her
Mm.
voice.
I don't
Because
know.
at one point she says, "You're nothing more than, like, a reflection of me or a part of me," and I swear to God, some parts of that it sounded like the same voice actor.
I can
So
totally see that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I thought. It was such a great reinvention of the story, and, like, a
Yeah.
great a villain to put in there.
I honestly, it's been so long that I've read it that I didn't have that to, like, kinda compare it to. An adversary, I don't remember. That design looks familiar to me, but I'm not familiar with that character. So it didn't, you know what I mean? Maybe it would have done a little bit more for me. I think it scared the shit out of my baby. She was like, "What is
Dude,
that?"
that was, dude, Adversary is like, as a child, if you're like a kid watching that, that's a scary ass
Right.
fucking creature.
Yeah.
And that wound to put on Forge was no joke. Chet says Magneto has just been resurrected in the comics. Sal said he's trending towards staying good. Chet said. Sal said, yeah, he's just came back in Resurrection. So there you go.
Yeah. I think it would have been epic if Hickman would have stayed around, because Magneto was at like the height of his like goodness and his importance to mutant culture. If they could have done a really good heel turn with Magneto in the Cohen era, that would have been like such a gut punch.
Big facts. They completely dropped the ball on that. I feel like
on all of it.
It really just went like you had House and Powers and such a that strong start, and then like you started to get into things like X of Swords, and it just got so mangled and turned into like, and it had its ups and downs. Like I feel like it had good moments.
Yeah, definitely.
I liked X. I liked that, like parts of Gillen's writing on some of those titles.
I think I
don't know. I liked, yeah. I don't blame you. I mean, I like moments and like throughout it, but it's just been. It felt like they had such a great start, and then they kind of things became unmoored, and they tried to get back to it. But at one point, I felt like it became so unapproachable for the outside reader.
Oh,
Be
totally,
like,
dude.
what am I? Where am I? Like, and I felt like that happened fairly quickly.
Pretty quickly. They did too much too quickly, and I don't think Hickman did a good. I don't think he was enough of a leader. I mean, you can tell he wasn't, because he quit, and a good leader wouldn't have quit the way he did. I thought it was bullshit, but he wasn't the guy to lead it and get everybody together. And then plus, what's his fucking name? I can't remember his name, but whatever the guy is that runs it and picks everybody that writes everything, he's trash. He's terrible. They sat and they listened to Twitter. They get on Twitter and like, what are the fans saying?
Yeah.
So all they're getting is what these people on
Agree.
Twitter are saying. It's like,
it feels like, they're doing that again now with the, like, not to get too off track, but
right.
all these new titles, and dude, like I'm gonna be, there's like 2 or 3 of those are gonna last, and like how do you guess which one is which? And I don't know. It's just
I really and we can move on after this, but I'm curious if I were to if I would have just read what I liked, which is what everybody that knew what they were talking about told me to do from the get-go, like how well it would have made sense to me if I just would have read Hickman's X-Men and Percy's X-Force and just left it at that, and Wolverine when it came out, and not dug into everything that made it more convoluted. I think I still would have had the story pretty much, but then it gets to X of Swords and all that, and you're fucking, now you need
but
everything.
dude, at the same time, X-Force and Wolverine went like the distance. You know what I mean? Like those 2 Percy titles went deep. Like they ran a marathon.
He was always the most consistent.
I feel like that's what people wanted out of Hickman, was that level of consistency. Like, and I dropped off his Wolverine run fairly early. I was buying every issue up to a point, but it just wasn't for me. But at the same time, like that shit wasn't going 30, 40 issues without doing some type of numbers. Like they're not, you know what I mean?
It wasn't the best. It was just solid. That's kind of my issue with the whole thing. If Percy is your second best writer, which he was for a good chunk of it, that's not good enough. They should have had another big guy doing one of those titles to help, carry it along. I mean, Fable's saying I enjoyed X-Force. I did too. I think Percy's a heck of a fucking writer. I just think he's like above average writer. He's not a guy that's going to be a universe changer. That's really going to bring in fresh ideas. He's just going to write really good, solid stories issue to issue, but he's not going to like expand on anything.
Agreed. He said Duggan has written one exceptional issue of X-Men. I can't understand why I don't know why they handed the reins to him. I agree with what you said on your review, bro. If he's not on 9-panel grid, if he's not excited about the work, if he's not really excited about what he's doing, then it's not gonna go down like that.
Right.
I just feel like he doesn't deliver. Anyway, moving on. So, like we said earlier, we thought the Madeline Pryor reveal was gonna have more weight and consequences past, just an episode or 2. But how do you feel like did you like the baby monitor scene and parts of this? Did you like the team vote, and how they kind of got into this?
the team vote. I don't fucking
Remember the she was laying down and they read her mind and figured out
figure out who she was. The
yeah.
reveal was great. Well, first of all, the thing that it's a really interesting way to attack the storyline, the Madeline Pryor storyline, because of the twist that they did on it. Like in the comics, as I'm sure you know, it's just Gene is dead. He meets Madeline Pryor. She's like, "Damn, you look a lot like my ex-wife," Cyclops says, or my ex-girlfriend. I don't think they were married.
Yep.
And then eventually Gene comes back, and those two characters exist at the same time. To change it this much and say, no, the Gene that we've been living with and doing X-Men shit with isn't Gene. That was a pretty major twist. And it is another thing that would have benefited from another few episodes and to stretch it out. You could have explored that a lot more about like just the ramifications of this living with this person and marrying and having a child with a person that isn't the person you thought that they were. But it's like whatever, it's all still there. It adds a layer of complexity to the whole thing. But I love the way that they switch it up and handle that part. But it did go too quick as of now. Like maybe next year we'll be like, oh no, damn, they saved it. It was amazing. But
yeah, because we don't even know her. Was she still alive at the end of episode 5? Because she got revealed at the beginning as being a member of the High Council or whatever on Genosha. So I wonder if she even survived.
She's gotta have.
Yeah, right.
It'd be stupid if she did to bring her in and just kill her right away.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. But yeah, I agree with you what you said. I like how when they were you come in the mine or whatever, she had all those memories, but the face was blank. Like I thought that was very cool and kind of eerie. And just I don't know, it all felt so real. Like she really thought she was who she was, and everything turned out to be untrue. That was just so wild. Like how you kind of believed her up to a point until the little sinister diamond started showing up, and he really pulled his card. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great reveal. Like you said, dude. Like, isn't that the scene up in Alaska? There's just a whole bunch of when Madeline first gets introduced, it's just like a whole bunch of confusion. And
that is actually one of the issue that was crossed in my mind when we were talking about comics to cover that go along with this. And I can't remember. Chad, help me out, or Stu, maybe you know what that artist's name was that came in for that era. I want to say like Paul Smith. It's not that, but it's something like that. He had this really simple drawing style that I really, really enjoy. But anyway, yeah, that's the whole thing. She was hired. Madeline Pryor, Sinister's put her up in a position where she was working for Scott Summers' grandparents as a pilot. So he goes up there and meets her that way. And it was just like one of those things. If he meets this person that looks exactly like Jean Grey, he's going to fall in love with her. And it works out more or less. And it's epic in the comics too. They spread it out in such a cool, interesting way.
Yeah, it's like that's one of those Claremontian ideas that sounds super corny, like from the outside looking in, until you you get invested and you read the entire arc or the entire run. And you're like, man.
Paul Smith, I think you're Silvestri or not Silvestri. It was the guy. I think it was the guy before Silvestri. He wasn't on too goddamn long, but Chris Claremont loved him. I know he says he thinks he's one of the best artists that he's ever worked with. I'm going to look it up, Paul Smith. But carry on.
Yeah, Mojo. Another, I think, this was half of the life death issue or the called episodes everything except episodes tonight. Apologies, guys. Another, half of the life death episode. What did you like? I know you said this like I don't know. This was another one I thought like and I think they did in the original series could have expanded out some more. It was cool though. I like the little video game. The video game part was like it had some dope visuals and dope moments.
I thought it was really solid. Just to compare it to the other ones, it's slightly the weak link, but it was really good. Like I said, I like the pairing of Jubilee and Sunspot. I like what they did with Mojo and making him all skinny and weird. I thought Mojo was hilarious in it.
Yeah,
the visuals were fire. This is where the show far exceeds the original in the moments like this in this episode. It was such a spectacle when they were in the Mojo verse. But and then to tie it in with the story, which is such an opposite feel. I thought that was a little bit weak as far as like the episode structure as a whole. The way it was like Mojo verse and everything is fucking crazy. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, Forge and Storm having these intimate moments together. It was a little bit jarring, but it was good. It was still very, very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, man.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Yeah. So moving on. Episode, I think we're on 5. That makes these up real quick. Hold on. Yeah. I mean, we've already said so much. I think the minute they touch down on Genosha, you know it's going to be bad news. But I love like the introduction of Nightcrawler. I love the voice for him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
and I
was
just
great.
love this. I love this little world they created. Like, you know, even though we only got to enjoy it for half an episode, but
Right.
you know, that's what happens when you try to make a you know, an island for mutants. Like it always goes that
Exactly,
way. It
exactly.
always goes that way.
You hope it lasts a little bit longer. Like we said earlier, this is a perfect encapsulation or example of how they're combining so many stories. And I've read some of the Genosha stuff, the bit where they went there and made it a mutant paradise and all that. But I feel like they're also pulling quite a bit like from the vibe of Krakoa. You know what I mean? Like some of the new era and just making it feel like that, where I don't know how much they were talking about mutant culture and all that on the Genosha era. Maybe they were, but they're definitely pulling from the gala, like the present stuff that they're doing with the
Oh
X-Men
yeah.
gala, that they put that in here. So they've got all that. We have the amazing ending with Gambit. We've got the possible setup for Zorn and Magneto, which I know my boy Steph is excited about. And at the same time as all that, they're mixing in the moment that Cable and Jean Grey are like meeting each other and finding out that
Oh
like
my
holy shit,
god.
man.
For me,
So many
like the
moments.
highlight. Bro, when I saw, and I keep the subtitles on my shit. So when I saw Cable cut the music, I was like, oh, like we already know how this is about to go. But then to give us this moment on top of it, you know, I'm sorry, mom, or I'm sorry, like,
Yeah.
fuck,
Sorry
man,
for what? Yeah.
it was so brutal, man, and so beautiful. Yeah, I just like, I don't know. From that, this one had, to me, this one had the most Morrisonian vibes of like
Yeah.
all the episodes because of Genosha, obviously, and
Well, that was
the
another cool thing.
this Sentinel massacre that he started his run off. But go ahead.
In the new X-Men issue where especially if you're someone like a lot of people will just, oh, what are great X-Men stories? And someone's gonna say, dude, pick up the Grant Morrison omnibus and read that. It's fire, which is what I did. I've read it a couple times. But you don't have that context. If you just pick that up and read it, you don't know what's going on with Emma teaching that class and what's going on Genosha. So you don't feel the impact of that moment in the Morrison run. You know what I'm talking about? So
Yes.
in this, we see that we get to live on Genosha and we're there when the explosion happens. We're already connected to all these people. So it's in a way, it's way more impactful in this version than in Morrison's version
Yeah.
because of that, man. But
And it's horrifying because you're watching Omega level mutants get like tossed aside like the, you know, scrap. So it's like, you know, this thing is, you know, whoever sent this thing is, I don't know,
and
insidious and
Callisto. I love they show
nail out.
Callisto dying, and I somebody said this once, and I thought it was so funny. They said the most asked question in X-Men lore is, "What the fuck does Callisto do?" It's like, yeah, what the fuck does Callisto do? What power does she have? From what I understand, she's just
Losing a storm and knife fights.
yeah, yeah. She's just a little bit. She's like a super soldier, barely. She's like
Yeah,
a weak super soldier. But that was
there you
great.
go.
The other little weird moment that I was gonna highlight that in this, like during the explosion, that made it feel I feel like the sound design for this whole show is like really, really good. And the way that they're
Oh
using the
yeah,
music.
great
But like
point.
when the attack happens on Genosha, there's like this accelerated like and then it like pauses and it blacks out. And then it like gets more and more intense, like you're in the middle of this giant accelerating explosion. It's like it's something you hear. Like I've heard that in like
Yes,
blockbuster movies. I think there was a moment in the second new Star, the Last Jedi, that was like that. But I don't know. It was cool. It was very. This episode was cinematic.
yeah,
You
and they
mentioned the moment at the end when Rogue is like, Remy, I can't feel you, and you can't see her. It's like just a black screen at that point. Like that was so cinematic. and just epic. And they tied it together so well. And then at the end of it is when I noticed, like, oh shit, remember is the name of the episode. It's like, God damn, this is a masterpiece. Like,
that was that's the one that really like that's like the double down card, man. It's like, we're already here at the stage of this ultimate sacrifice, but then you're gonna tie it in with you're not gonna tie it in with like the other X-Men storylines. You're gonna tie it in with like the show. Like,
right.
Let's go, man. Like you said, dude. Like, and that was, the high point, the middle of the season. So, or relatively, the middle of the season. So I'm excited to see how they write it out.
I love E's comment here. Starting with Morrison is like dropping acid before trying weed. It's like, I'm not saying I started with Morrison, but I did when I was looking for more modern stories.
That would be so hardcore if that was your first X-Men exposure ever. Like, can you imagine?
What's a mutant? Oh, check this out.
And then like traversing the X universe after that, like just being like, what the fuck? What are all these word bubbles? Yeah, there he is. R.I.P.
This was the moment, dude.
How do you feel about Gambit in general? Have you
I fucking love him, dude. My brother is like his dog's name is Gambit. He's obsessed.
Oh, wow.
He was his favorite mutant growing up, and I've always loved it. It was actually funny because I was saying to my brother, we were talking like, do you think he's dead? And my first thought is, if he's dead, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. But second is that he didn't do enough. Usually when you're gonna kill a character, he did enough in that episode, but you figure they would have like built him up before they kill him. If they bring him back and only do the one episode where they're kind of highlighting him just to kill him. But here's what I wanted to ask you, because I was talking about it with my brother, and he's saying like, bro, I don't think most people like Gambit as much as we do. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like he's one of the most popular mutants. I don't know. Do you what vibe do you get? I feel like we get hurt. You hear more about him getting his own solo movie than you hear about anybody outside of Wolverine.
So like I've never been a big fan. I've never really liked Gambit like that. I feel like he's the character who's popular, but people can't really explain why. And it felt like in the 90s, dude, and like the 90s had those Marvel used to put those polls. Like I remember 92 and 93, they put reader polls in the Wizard magazines. Mm-hmm. And dude, Gambit would always come in like second or third when it came to who do you want to see a solo title from, right? But like I guess they never had faith in. Like we got that Jeff Loeb and
miniseries,
Tim Sale, Wolverine, and where they were trying to solve that murder in Europe, and like, but they've never really had enough faith in old boy to like. They just had that Stephanie Phillips Rogan Gambit series that fell flat on his face. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like he's still got a great story out there waiting to be written. I think there's definitely enough for. Dude, I feel like you put a character and make him from New Orleans, that alone is enough to, you pull from that rich and vibrant culture, you can make a great story, especially with the thieves and Assassin's Guild and all that shit.
I think you think you fucking nailed it. It's like, well, why do I like Gambit? But it is less about the comics, and it's the show.
That's what Fable said. Fable said the same thing.
Yeah, that's what it is. He just looked cool. That look was a cool look. It was the trench coat was a fresh look at the time. His staff was fucking cool, and the powers. It's just a badass looking power. But this moment is like the best demonstration of that power that's ever been put to screen. And it was, I don't know, man. It was so fucking epic.
Oh yeah, it really was. Rude in the building. Rude. Love you, bro. Thank you for coming through. Shout out to the homie. Real rude. Y'all go follow Paul in the 619 on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern.
619?
Yeah, man. All right. Let me get to the last little bit. Yeah, so this is the last slide of the night. Obviously, tonight's episode we've already covered life, death, and I feel like good measure. But yeah, what did you feel, how did you feel about Deathbird and the Shi'ar? And I thought it was dope seeing Deathbird. I love the way made me think of the Jim Lee drawings. Like, I mean, you can't beat that. I don't know, but yeah, how did you feel about Charles's where's Charles has been this time with the Shi'ar, and I guess his return back to mutant?
I loved it, dude. Like I said, I really enjoy this story in the comics. Anytime Like one of my favorite storylines in the comics is when I think it's the Phoenix has her power and they go off out here for the first time with the MCon crystal and all that shit. So I love anything she are. I love the look of them. I love the lore of the people. And I love Lady Deathbird like more than anything, dude. So when she showed up, she just got such a cool look. I love a good bad female villain, and she's got such a cool design, and she's she's super badass. The whole I like the whole dynamic too between Charles being like in this weird situation where she's the emperor. She's coming out to his place, and just they're doing cool stuff with the dynamic of him being this outsider coming into their culture. It's a pretty like layered episode as far
It
as
is.
like the
It is.
complexity
Yeah.
of it. But and then of course they do the big badass stuff. Gladiator, as someone mentioned, was awesome. I love all those people, all those characters that roll with Gladiator. Just the look of them all is fire, man. So
It is.
that's my only complaint is I wish they were doing more out there. Like I said, like I couldn't remember how it was going to go down. I was hoping Charles was stuck out there and they need some help getting back, and they're going to
Well,
bring
like I don't know if you remember originally, but like originally, like they found out that Charles was a Skrull, like trying to further infiltrate the Shi'ar Empire, and those were some of the Jim Lee issues. But yeah, I definitely like they could have gone so much farther on this. He said, yeah, Gambit had that first series at Lee Weeks. Oh shit, Lee Weeks drew some Gambit. He said Mackie was writing. Yeah, Mackie's writing.
I'm trying to think. Is that I remember having this like 4-issue miniseries, this Gambit miniseries back in the day that I was trying to figure out who is that it? I know it's all about them going down to Cajun and the thieves and the assassins and all that. And on the cover of like I think issue 1 or 2 of the series is Gambit on his knees on the ground. He's got this woman in his arms and he's crying. He's looking up. So help me if that's the one, just because I'm curious. But sorry, I digress.
No, you're good. Sal said Clayman, dude. Clayman drew a Gambit series. Damn, I gotta check these out. Clayman does great art. But yeah, I'm with you, bro. I think I would have liked to have seen more. I think they could have drawn the story out. They definitely skipped through some storyline. You could hear them talking about it, like her brother was, trying to. There's some illusion going on, and Xavier helped them break through that or see the truth in that and all that.
Yeah, I think her brother was the one that like had the Mcron crystal in the first place.
Yeah.
He was the emperor at that time, and then she took over because of the events of that shit.
How'd you feel about his level up, like classes in session and all that? Did you like that?
It was great. Yeah, no, it was great, man. Just seeing him in classic professor form.
Right.
It was dope, dude. Ooh, he says I'm correct. I love hearing that.
Hell yeah. He said, what did he say? Raise your hand if you got a question.
Yeah. It was epic, dude. It was epic.
It was great. All right. Well, I guess that'll do it for the X-Men 97 talk and the show tonight. I did not do a PCB schedule, unfortunately.
Fuck them. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Go, but hey, you're here with me, bro. You wrote it out. You promote your shit, man. Take as long as you want.
Where do I start? No, doing a show tomorrow night. I got my man E from 9-Panel Grid. We're gonna be talking some schlock. We're gonna be having some fun. Trauma double feature. Stu's gonna be there. Oh wait, maybe he won't be. Well, fucking, I guess not. I'm just playing with it. So yeah, they're two pretty bad movies. The Night Beast is like epically known, famous for being like one of the biggest, like so bad it's good movies in the history of cinema. Like a movie that you're like, what the fuck? How did this get made? So go check that out if I didn't sell you on that. And then the other one is Class of Nukem High, which is it's like pretty much like a stoner comedy. They're both like an hour and 20-minute short little movies. They're on Tubi. Go check them out. But for the most part, what we do on Blood Splatter Chatter, usually we talk about good movies, but we're going to have some fun tomorrow. So that's pretty much what we're doing. Stu's there a lot. Steph's there quite a bit. We got Fable there. A lot of the guys you see on this channel and on hashtag Blame Fable are there. We're chopping it up, and we're talking horror on Thursday nights, 8 Central Time.
Yeah.
Shout out to my homies in Central Time.
You poor bastards. Yeah. Yeah, it's like Supreme Clientele, but more professional, guys. So y'all go check it out. We will be back next Wednesday. I don't know what our theme or a show will be about, but we will be here 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Hold on. He's talking cash shit. Every game is story. Remember, you're a criminal. Let's do crime. I'm more than a criminal fast, but let's do something to prove it. So true. Oh yeah, let's do something VHS covers with these. And what does he say? And all of a sudden, hard work. All right, bro.
And
It is hard work. It's all hard work.
he's saying had work. It's like, oh shit, I had work. But it is.
Man.
They're not the greatest covers. Also,
I'll do. I think the Night Beast one is pretty fire, honestly.
the Night Beast one. Really, I'm thinking of the Class of Nukem High. It drives. They really need to redo that cover art because it doesn't sell what's in.
It's too muddy. Yeah,
it looks like it's like the Road Warriors kind of a thing, and it's not really that. There's some characters that look like that, but it's more of this fun stoner comedy with crazy practical effects at times. So they really need to redo that.
Night Beast has got the juice though. When I saw Night Beast, I was like, all right, I'm down. There was no Inferno Fable, but we appreciate you, bro. Thank you for coming through. Love you. Yeah, I guess that'll do it for us tonight. Thank all y'all for coming through. Thanks to my co-host and my brother Verno for making a great show out of nothing. I appreciate you all week long. And yeah, forever and always. We will see y'all next week. Until then, station, be excellent.